Right now, save 60% off absolutely everything at Gap Factory and Banana Republic Factory at our biggest sale of the year. That's right, 60% off everything in stores and online. Save big with sweaters for adults from $14.99 at Gap Factory. And at Banana Republic Factory, doorbuster sweaters start at $19.99. Hurry, these prices won't last. Search our store locator for your nearest Gap Factory and Banana Republic Factory store or shop us online.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Jimmy Mack is a renowned medical intuitive and spiritual life coach who has taken, completed, and even mastered a variety of healing modalities. After a near-death experience, he was shown and developed a simpler way to create healing and profound changes, now known as My Liquid Fish. He works with clients in person, on the phone, and over Skype worldwide, accessing energetic powers and co-creating changes that you can actually feel. Call in now to reserve your spot on the switchboard. The call-in number is 713-955-0594. Press 1 if you would like to ask Jimmy Mack a question. Enjoy this 1 hour of profound healing.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Jimmy Mack. We're glad you're here. We appreciate everybody listening and calling in. And of course, if you're listening to the sound of my voice and you happen to be on the link, the call-in number is also 713-955-0594. You'll want to press 1 to raise your hand and ask a question live. We're here every Tuesday at 12 noon. It's a Jimmy Mack Healing Show. We appreciate everybody being here. We make every effort to have on different unusual guests every week to co-host, co-guest with me so that we can take your calls and see what we can do to help you facilitate change. It might be an intuitive reading or some form of healing. And so we're always here for you. It's part of our service and benevolence and what we do. You can find out more about me, of course, at jimmymackhealing.com. Reach out for that. Again, we're here every Tuesday, 12 noon. And we appreciate you guys being here today. And we'll also have a show, of course, next week, next Tuesday as well. You can look up all the archives on either Spreaker or iHeartRadio or at my website, jimmymackhealing.com/interviews. There's hundreds and hundreds of shows there. Hard to believe we've been in it as long as we have, but lots of shows there for you and lots of very well-known folks that have been co-hosts, co-guests with me. So, which leads us to today's special guest, it's Sherry Torkos. Sherry's a pharmacist, author, certified fitness instructor, and health enthusiast who enjoys sharing her passion with others. She graduated with honors from Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science. And since that time, she's been practicing holistic pharmacy in the Niagara region of Ontario. Her philosophy of practice is to integrate conventional and complementary therapies to optimize health and prevent disease. She's won several national pharmacy awards for providing excellence in patient care, and she's authored 18 books and booklets, including the Canadian Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine, Saving Women's Hearts, and the Glycemic Index Made Simple. You can find out more at sherrytorkos.com. That's at www, of course, Sherry, SherryTorkos.com. Hey, Sherry, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey there, Jimmy. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. We appreciate it. We had Dave Foreman last week, and he was pretty amazing, too. And he's local here down by me in the Clearwater, Palm Harbor, St. Pete area. And so we really had a great show, and I just find it fascinating. My grandfather, who I never met, was a pharmacist, and gosh, you know, you just have to remember so much stuff nowadays. And I don't think the doctors remember half the interactions, and you guys really got to be on the ball to dispense those sorts of things. So my hat's off to you. You're much admired just for dealing with all that. Yeah, you bet.
Well,
so tell me more about
Yeah, it's a lot of information, and thankfully today with technology, when we don't know the answer, we know how to look up the answer and where to go to get reliable information. But I'm actually not too far from you. I'm actually calling in from Pompano Beach, Florida. I'm on vacation with my family here this week. Yeah, so we're soaking up some sunshine, enjoying beautiful weather here, and yeah. So I've been practicing pharmacy now for over 25 years, which seems funny when I say that, but it goes fast, let me tell you. And my type of practice, similarly to Dave Foreman, I am holistically oriented. I still do work with prescription medications, but I choose to have more of a holistic practice. So when I'm advising patients on their health and wellness, I try to give them advice on food and nutrition and lifestyle measures, as well as how they can use supplements. Yeah, so that's something that I, personally believe strongly in, and I find it much more rewarding to practice in that way. I think, early in my career, I was just seeing too many people relying on prescription drugs to solve their problems, and it doesn't work that way. You have to do your part. And when we look at most, especially chronic health conditions that we face, there is such a strong role for just doing the basics like eating the right food and taking care of your body and exercising, managing your stress, and, whenever possible, using, dietary supplements in a smart way.
Yeah, I love it. Well said. And, anybody that watches the news anymore, any of the shows, and you see the pharmaceutical ads on there, and, you might have arthritis, but by the time the commercial's over, you think, well, I'll keep my arthritis because if I take that, there's going to be 10 other catastrophic things that could happen to me. So it's mind-bending, the stuff that goes on. And my lawyer friend says that's mainly for the doctors, not the patients. So isn't that interesting?
Well, every drug that you take and every substance you put in your body has effects, and sometimes there's positive and sometimes negative, and it's sometimes a matter of weighing the benefits versus the risks. And, I think it's important for people to be aware when you're buying medication, either prescription or even just over the counter, to read the fine print on the packages, to ask questions, check with your doctor, is this absolutely necessary, and ask some questions, too, with your pharmacist, because that's what we're there for, to provide advice and guidance.
I love it. Yeah, and there's so many things that are interactive, as you know, with different herbs and different things. So, it's pretty amazing, and there's a lot of do's and don'ts, I know, and all of that. And, one of your specialties, of course, is the histamines and allergies versus food and that sort of thing. And boy, is that a complicated swamp too. So I'm amazed that, you're so well versed on all of that because, gosh, if you're not eating clean, it's like I could have one little thing and I'm just, sneezing and stuffy nose for 3 days kind of thing. So I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a caller and keep things stirred up here. 310, you're our first caller. Hi, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You have a question for Sherry?
From Hawaii.
What's your name?
I do have a question. Cecilia.
Cecilia, yes. Go ahead, Cecilia.
Cecilia. I'd like to know if you have anything in the way of holistic for gastritis besides I follow the traditional diet, exercise, those kinds of things. And other than probiotics and the traditional diet, is there anything else you can suggest?
So maybe just a couple questions I'd ask first, Cecilia. Are you taking any medications right now?
No, none.
No medications, and have you tried any dietary changes or
yes.
supplements at this point?
Everything that was recommended, staying away from fried foods, tomatoes, dairy, things of that nature, everything that was recommended, and the only supplements, and this is of my own volition, is just probiotics.
Okay, so you've tried the probiotics and no effect?
No.
Okay, and in terms of tests that your doctor has done, have you had like the barium swallow and any kind of scope
Yes.
done to check, make sure? Okay, and
Yes.
no problem anatomically
No.
with the esophagus, everything's okay?
No, it's okay.
Well, okay, and how long has this been going on for?
About a year and a half.
Okay. And is it keeping you up at night? Is it severe, or is it just after you eat certain foods, or when your stomach is empty?
Not after certain foods, no. Sometimes it's when it's empty and/or few hours after eating. It can be after drinking water.
Right. So people that have heartburn, pain in their stomach, when the stomach is empty, that could indicate a type of ulcer, which your doctor, if they've done a barium X-ray, that checks certain things. Have they checked you for H. pylori? Is that something you recall being tested for?
I don't recall.
Yeah, it's a type of bacteria that is tested. The presence of this bacteria can indicate ulcers. Do you ever take any anti-inflammatory drugs? Like, do you ever take Advil, Motrin, Aleve, any of those types of things?
Nothing at all.
All right. Well, reason I ask all these questions, when we look at gastritis, I mean, there are so many things that can provoke it. It can be diet, can be stress-related. It can even be a side effect. In fact, one of the most common side effects from taking anti-inflammatory drugs, Aleve, Advil, things like that, you can get burning pain in the stomach. It actually eats away at the lining of the stomach, and that can last for weeks or months after you take the medication. So none of those seem to be relevant. One last question. Are you a mouth breather? Do you breathe through your mouth?
No.
At night? No, you breathe through your mouth, no
I
problem
don't.
snoring, anything like that?
No, nothing like that.
Okay, because there's also some new research going on looking at the impact of mouth breathing and snoring and how that can create a negative pressure situation and draw acid up into the stomach. So given that none of these things seem to be really happening, a couple of things that you may want to check out. One would be a type of licorice that's helpful for heartburn. It's called DGL. That's D as in David, G as in George, L as in Larry, like DGL. It's a deglycerized licorice. You could try that for heartburn. That is something that has been studied and compared to some of the acid blocking drugs that are recommended. You may want to continuing with the probiotic. It won't really have any down effect, and if there is a bacterial imbalance and that's contributing to the problem, taking a probiotic would be a beneficial option. There's also an herb which you can look online just to find. Most likely you'll have to get it in a health food store, and it is called Boldo, B as in boy, B-O-L-D-O. Boldo is a short form for Boldo cyanera. And it's also very effective for gastritis and heartburn. And typically you'll find it in complexes along with other herbs. There's a company that from Switzerland called A. Vogel, and they make a Boldo complex that I've seen the research on it, and it's very encouraging. It seems to really have a positive impact. Very safe and well tolerated, works quickly, so that may be something else to look at. And also, going to a specialist. I'm not sure if it was who has done your testing so far, but I always believe in getting to the underlying problem rather than just a Band-Aid approach. So having some further testing, make sure the doctor checks you for H. pylori, as I mentioned, that bacteria that can cause heartburn-related problems. So I would recommend that. And keep track of a food diary as well, because that can give you some input into, if there are certain things that are aggravating. And I know you've mentioned you cut out, tomato products and spicy foods and things like that, but nonetheless, there are other foods that can be irritating, so that may be another option to try.
Thank
I
you.
hope that helps. You're welcome.
Awesome. Yeah, I would chime in on all that. The licorice test's really good for you. Whatever the Boldo is, I've never heard of it, but that test's good for you. Again, I'm asking energetically for you. And but I would also, I don't get that you have the H. pylori, but I do get that you have slight ulcers, like 3 different small ulcers right now. And again, I'm talking to angels flying UFOs, so I'm just letting you know intuitively what I get when I tune into your body. The other thing that I would do is take the probiotics. People tend to cram those down even in meals or just before meals, but you really want to take probiotics in between your meals. It's not breakfast, lunch to you. They're saying it's lunch, dinner. So sometime about maybe 2 hours after lunch, that would go a long way to help you out. You also test for parasites. When I'm asking spirit, it's not bacteria, virus, mold, fungus, mildew, yeast, candida, negative pathogen, parasites. You only have parasites. You don't test for a regular cleanse that has to do with, the wormwood and that sort of thing, but you do test great for diatomaceous earth. So I'd go on eBay or Amazon, I'd look at diatomaceous earth. Under a microscope, what it looks like is little Lego toys, and it actually tears up all the parasites that are off their legs and their skin and everything else and kill them. And it won't hurt you, but it would be a really good cleanse for you to do. But that's really what you got going on. If I ask about your chief complaint to spirit, it's all parasite driven. So definitely want to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome, honey. I'll help you any way I can. You can reach out info@jimmymackhealing.com. I don't sell product, but I certainly recommend a lot of different things, and we'll send you exactly what you may want to consider taking, as well as the licorice and the boldo and all that. Those test phenomenal for you. So I don't see it as any one little thing. I think you need to do a bunch of different things, okay?
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. 727 is our next caller. I know where that area code is. Hi, welcome to the show. You have a question for Sherry?
Hey, good morning. I know we haven't chatted in a really long time, Jimmy. How are you?
Oh, that's true. Good. I'm so into voice tonality. Yeah, it just hit me. You have a question for her? She's the pharmacist and understands natural medicine and herbs and vitamins and all that.
Well, I'd probably take your whole hour, but I do have a couple and stuff that we didn't cover when I saw you yesterday. My mom passed away about 6 months ago, and I've gained 25 pounds since then. Some of it was because I was put on an antidepressant, and all I wanted to do was eat carbs. I am having a really hard time going off sugar again. I found I have joint and inflammation issues, and I find the less sugar I have, the better I feel, and I know that in my brain, but my brain, I can't go a whole day, and I try every day. Today's going to be my sugar-free day. I'm not going to do it, and I do it, and I can't figure out, is there a supplement I can take, anything that you could advise that could help me to bang out that sugar? I know once I'm off it for 3 weeks, I feel better. I have more energy. I start not hurting as much, but I just can't. For some reason, I've been having a really hard time, and I don't know if it's the residual of the antidepressant still in my system, but I'm having a hard time having a sugar-free day.
Okay, so first off,
sugar-free 3 weeks.
So first off, I'm going to hand you to Sherry in just a second, but I would suggest chromium picolinate. I think that tests really good. Also, cinnamon is somewhat the it helps knock down the sugar cravings. And generally for people like you, you're not magnesium deficient, you test as calcium deficient. People that crave salt generally are magnesium deficient, and that's not a hard and fast rule, and neither is this. But I found that you test as somewhat calcium deficient to crave sugar so much. But here's a great question for Sherry from you, is I know you have a form of arthritis and taken different meds and that sort of thing. So maybe you might want to direct that at her as well, because if you got inflammation under control, you wouldn't be craving to eat the whole pie kind of thing. But let Sherry know what you're taking as far as a arthritic prescription, and maybe she can suggest some other things as well, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I take, for the rheumatoid arthritis, I just switched 3 weeks, or about little over a month ago, over to the Xeljanz extended release, which is better than any of the injections I've been on because it doesn't tank my immune system as much. And outside of that, for the rheumatoid arthritis, I just take things to help the symptoms, which I'm not on any anti-inflams anymore right now because of some mouth sore problems I was having. But I do take methocarbamol as a muscle relaxer to help
with that, and I take just Norco as needed when I have flare-ups.
Okay, and you mentioned you were on antidepressants and you stopped taking
I
them. How long ago was that?
I stopped taking them probably about 3 weeks ago because I had to slowly go off of them because you can't just stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then even for the first 2
Right.
weeks after I stopped taking them, I kept feeling little like electric shocky things in my head, which I think meant I probably titrated off. Even I went by the doctor's directions, probably still went too fast.
Yeah, it's a tough one because everyone's individual in how they react, and we have some general guidelines for weaning off of antidepressants, but it is common that people can have some adverse effects, and it's not always smooth sailing. So let me see here. A couple of things that are coming to mind. I do agree with Jimmy that chromium is helpful for stabilizing blood sugar. There's one thing you may want to look at. It's called prenulin. It's R-E-N as in Nancy, U-L-I-N. It's an ingredient by Pharmachem Labs. It's a combination of a chromium with a form of this compound ingredient called L-arabinose. It's derived from sugar beets, and it has like an insulin control effect. It helps with cravings for sweets. There's a website, prenulininfo.com, so you could check that out. I think it's difficult because as you've noticed, when you stay away from sugar, you feel better, and when you start eating sugar, you crave more. Because it becomes a bit of a vicious cycle. You get into that circle where you eat the sugar, and once it wears out of your system, you're craving more. You're riding, what I call the blood sugar and insulin roller coaster. So as much as possible, trying to be strict with staying away from it, or when you are having something sweet, have it with protein and healthy fats, so it's not hitting your bloodstream at lightning speed and it's slowing the release, so you're not getting that quick high. So that means if you're having something sweet, you mix it with some soluble fiber, maybe some protein. What kinds of things do you snack on or do you crave?
Oh my God, scones. Lately, scones.
Okay.
And I have zeros. When I'm off sugar, I don't crave sugar, and I can look at something and be like, I'm good, I don't want it. But it's like the worst addiction ever. Like when I have it, it's like I can't just have it in the house and it stay in the container. It's gonna go I'll just have one, I'll just have another, I'll just have another. And then I figured out how to make them. And that's really easy. So it's oh my God, and I just need to quit because I'm not feeling well. I realized at the end of the day, I was just grieving my mom. I wasn't really depressed, so I probably never needed them anyway, but that's what started me down this cycle of I'm now 25 pounds heavier. That's a lot. I'm not that tall that I can really carry that off. That's a lot of weight.
It is tough dragging around extra weight. But, okay, so a couple other things that I would suggest. The cinnamon. Cinnamon is really good to help.
In a supplement or just cinnamon tea?
Well, you can get it in supplement form, but no, again, if you're going to be having a scone, give it a good dose of cinnamon. If you're going to be if you like oatmeal and you're putting a little brown sugar in it, put a lot of cinnamon in it. Kind of counters that effect, helps to improve glycemic control. These are some, complementary fixes. Ideally, you want to try to just stay away from the sugar as much as possible and go with your slow-release carbohydrates. Those are a few things that I would suggest. And again, check out that prenulin, which you'll find in different supplements. I don't know any brand names off the top of my head, but I'm sure.
And it's PREN as in Nancy, right?
Yeah, PRENULIN. You can check that out.
Okay, great.
And then, if you find that you are still having some worry, some anxiety, some stress, and you're looking for something to kind of calm your system down, there's an amino acid that I really like. It's L-theanine. That's L-theanine, Theanine. So you can find L-theanine. The one that has the most research behind it is an ingredient called sun-theanine. And it makes you feel more calm, more relaxed, more zen-like. It's not addictive, non-drowsy. And when I'm weaning people off of antidepressants or if they're quitting smoking or they have anxiety. This is a supplement I often recommend because it has some really good properties to promote calming and relaxation, but
and then
yet
how
it
would you
heightens
take
mental
it?
focus and clarity. It's a supplement, so that you would find, like if you're in a health food store, different companies like Natural Factors and others make it. So you can check that out.
And is
the
it like one a
L-theanine.
day,
And
or you follow the directions on the bottle?
yeah, you could take
kind of a thing?
you could take 1 or 2 a day. Yeah, it's usually the recommended dosage would be about 100 milligrams at a time. Some people just take it in the evening. Some people take it twice a day. And then magnesium would be the other thing that I would consider adding to
Yeah, I did
your
I got a CalMag powder that I make tea with at night before I go to bed, and it's calcium and magnesium.
Yeah, perfect.
Together.
I was going to say, yeah, that's the best time to take your CalMag is at bedtime as well. So good. No, you're doing good.
Okay, great. Well, I really appreciate your input.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna go Google all that right now.
Okay, good.
I'll probably start sometime after Thanksgiving so I can game on one more time. But I appreciate it.
It's up to you. And here's the other thing too. If you look up Puritan Pride supplements, they're out of great state of New York. They have an actual L-theanine lozenge, and that's really, really good. You just swig on it instead of just taking a pill and wondering if it's helping you. And the L-theanine lozenge is really, really good stuff. So you kind of get stressed or whatnot, you just swig on that, and you got a lot going on, job stuff, kid stuff, relationship stuff. So I wouldn't hesitate. Maybe not in the morning because you want to get cranked up, but afternoon or evening, I would have those. They almost taste like a sweet tart. So that might help you with 2 birds with 1 stone right there. You'll catch some sweetness, and it's L-theanine. So appreciate you calling.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, too.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Awesome. Our next caller is Michelle from Connecticut. Hi, Michelle. You're on live. You have a question for Sherry?
Yes, hi, I do. I've developed some kind of weird peripheral neuropathy, and I managed to take care of it a bit a few years ago when I went on female hormones. It just subsided. Now all of a sudden it's back again. And, of course, no doctor makes this correlation, so nobody says this is why. I've had all kinds of tests, and it's like, yeah, it's idiopathic. We don't know why you have it. So now it's back again.
Okay, and you said this came on when you were taking female hormones, so you're referring to just estrogen you were taking?
Oh, no. So what happened was years ago I had this problem starting up. And it was really weird, and it goes on for a while, and right about the same time I went in to go for female hormones. So 2 things are occurring at the same time pretty much, and what I found was when I started taking the progesterone and the testosterone and the estrogen trio, just helped the peripheral neuropathy. And so I left it alone for years, and now it's back. But I'm wondering if trying to go back on hormones is really the thing to do.
Well, that's a tough one to answer, whether or not to be on hormones. How old are you?
I'll be 61 in a week.
61. And when you were mentioning you're on progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, was this something that was compounded in the pharmacy like a topical, or was it an oral product?
I had these products. One, the progesterone was oral, and then the other 2 were topical.
So the progesterone was oral and the other 2 were topical. Okay, because there are some concerns, as you know, especially with taking oral estrogens in terms of risks with certain types of cancer and even blood clots and heart attacks and things like that. So we typically advise women to, if they are taking hormones, only when absolutely necessary, lowest dose, shortest period of time. So whether or not it's prudent to go back on them, I really think that's the best conversation for you to have with your doctor, your healthcare practitioner. I'd suggest maybe getting a hormone panel done, having those hormones as well as other hormones checked, your DEA and andro and your thyroid, because if you're low in thyroid, that can also cause some problems with numbness and tingling in the extremities, also intolerance to cold, fatigue, hair loss, things like that. So maybe a good idea to go back to your doctor and have, some investigation done, because it's hard for me to kind of, make a recommendation at this point because I really don't have, access to all that information on your situation. But I would encourage you, to have it checked out.
So my thyroid, I actually had removed years ago, and I feel pretty good. I mean, I've been on the same, as long as I stick to the same dosage, I feel good. And I just got it checked, but I have no thyroid.
Oh, you had your thyroid checked. Okay,
yeah.
So you're on like an altroxin or a Synthroid or something like that?
Yeah, exactly, levothyroxine.
Okay, and when you had your blood work done recently, you said it was okay?
Yeah, it's within the limits. Yeah, TSH it's down towards the very minimal level, but not at the minimum.
Well, I mean, that's perplexing. I don't know what, because I was thinking maybe this was related to thyroid. I don't know, and you're not a smoker?
No. I'm just getting this peripheral neuropathy for no reason, except for I always have extreme anxiety. That's for sure.
Right.
Always.
Yeah, peripheral neuropathy, we see that a lot in people that have diabetes, and especially if they have uncontrolled high blood sugar. It's also something that's present in people that have, really low thyroid. We can see it when there's nerve damage. If a person has a history of an accident. And they're saying it's idiopathic, so they're not really sure what's happening. I guess a couple of things I could suggest you could just try to see if it helps. One would be an antioxidant called alpha-lipoic acid. So it's alpha and then lipoic, L-I-P. You take that?
Yeah. Do anything. I know that's like the best
acid.
one.
You have to take quite a bit of it. It's not something you'd have to take a really high dosage, probably a couple 100 milligrams a day, to get an adequate effect. And the other thing that you may want to look at is a type of garlic. It's aged garlic extract, which has a lot of different antioxidant properties and can also help improve circulation and blood flow to the extremities. And they've got some really interesting proprietary research on that, so you may want to check that out. It's called Kyolic. It's Kyolic, Kyolic, and it's an aged garlic extract. So that may be another thing to try out.
So I happen to have my stomach gets really upset with garlic, but this wouldn't upset my stomach, right?
You know what? People that have problems with tolerating oral garlic usually have no problems with aged garlic extract. Now, I can't say for sure, but generally speaking, if somebody gets gas or upset stomach when they eat garlic, especially raw garlic, that is not a problem because when the garlic, the Kyolic, it's made through an aging process, and through the aging process, a lot of the volatile, irritating chemicals are removed, and you're left with something that has a strong therapeutic value, but without a lot of the irritating compounds that are in garlic. So I think it's worth a try, but certainly you can take a look at it to read more about it before you make that decision.
Okay, that's good to know.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, alpha-lipoic acid, whatever you have right now, alpha-lipoic acid tests strong for you, but you need as many times a day. And also the aged garlic she's talking about. I don't get that it's going to upset your stomach, but I'm doing it intuitively. It tests weak when I say it's going to upset your stomach. So I don't feel like it will. Of course, it's a radio show, so we're not going to guarantee any of that. But the other thing I would add is if you were doing great on bioidentical hormones or some form of hormones and all that, Sherry's spot on with get your levels all checked again. And if you have to get back on any of that stuff, it's almost like if it could erase the peripheral neuropathy and maybe lessen depression, then it might be worth the risk of the other side effects. But if you noticed before you didn't have any of these things when you're on those things, then I would be looking at, either talking to the doctor about getting back on them or finding a natural healthcare practitioner that would work with you on taking some sort of a bioidentical hormone treatment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect logical sense.
Awesome.
There are those risks involved, and that's why I went off. I just wasn't sure how long to be on it. So
totally
maybe it's time to go back on.
I would. It's either that. And always check with your doctor first, of course, and see what they say. But if you weren't noticing side effects before, you could be the 1 in a million shot that this really helps and erases the neuropathy out. The second choice would be to see some naturopath or somebody that really does exotic herbs and spices and whatnot, and they might figure out some things that will really work for you too. But I would check with both doctors and make sure there's not interference in any of it, okay?
The only thing I would add to that maybe too would be to consider acupuncture. Acupuncture, I have had some experience in people with peripheral neuropathy benefiting from acupuncture, so that'd be one other thing to investigate.
Oh, okay. That makes sense too.
I can only help you. That's the oldest medicine too, so I love it.
Yes,
awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks for your call today. We appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving. You bet.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. 818 is our next caller from California. Hi.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? You have a pharmaceutical or a prescription question for Sherry?
Well, I was wondering about excess fluid. I drink, enough water, maybe about 4 or 5 bottles a day. I was drinking more than that, and I've been getting up using the bathroom frequently. Not every night, but mostly every night. And I thought about it today as well, maybe a fluid is coming out. But I'm just wondering, could it be something other than water? I am on a water pill for high blood pressure. And I'm just trying to figure it out. So I stopped drinking water at 5, all fluids at 5. And so it's making a little difference. I'm just wondering if it's maybe something I could eat or drink or change my hours to have better results so I can sleep at night.
Right. Well, that's a good question, and I have a lot of patients that have this common concern if they're taking water pills, and you take that first thing in the morning, right? Your diuretic, you take that first thing in the morning?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the best time to take it. So hopefully you're eliminating most of your fluids during the day. And you don't want to reduce your fluid intake. I know it sounds like, it's a pain getting up in the night to go to the bathroom, and you're thinking, maybe if I cut down on the fluid, that's going to help. But that can actually sometimes lead to other problems. And I wouldn't recommend, cutting your intake of fluids. What you may want to look at is talking to the doctor just to make sure your diuretic medication is at the right dosage. It's not too strong for you. Other than you're not drinking in the evening, you said, watch your sodium intake because, of course, sodium can affect blood pressure and it can cause your body to hold on to water. So you want to make sure that you're, minimizing your sodium intake. The reality is for especially a lot of women, as we get older, it's one of those things where our bladder sometimes isn't able to be as strong as it was when we're in our 20s and 30s. A lot of women have this concern where they have to get up in the night to go to the bathroom and void. It's a challenge, but it's kind of hard to get around that. There are exercises that you can do to strengthen your pelvic floor muscles. Like, for example, if you find that during the day you also have maybe urgency or frequency having to go to the bathroom, or if you have issues where you sneeze or cough and you release any urine, there are certain exercises and techniques and things like that, you can actually see a pelvic floor therapist, and they can work on to help strengthen the bladder muscles so that you're able to hold your urine. But that doesn't always eliminate the need to go in the bed during the night. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had heard about something that you could take. I guess it's a pill that will, so you can sleep at night, so your bladder won't be so full all the time. And I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. They're medications that are used for overactive bladder. So they would have to be something you would get prescribed by your doctor. But there are some side effects with those drugs as well, and sometimes they lead to the need for other medications. So it's something that you only want to take if this is really becoming something that affects your quality of life. Because, again, the side effects of those drugs can sometimes be troubling, dizziness and lightheadedness, and it can affect your blood pressure as well. So, you know, with your next visit to your doctor, you could bring that up and ask about it, and then you can weigh the benefits versus the risks.
Okay, thank you. I'll go in the morning, and I have to talk to him about it before. I'll talk to him again, and I can increase the water intake maybe by 10 or 20 more ounces, you think? Might do it.
Pardon?
Well, I'm thinking about increasing the amount of water I'm drinking, maybe an extra bottle or so of water.
And drink your water as much as possible early in the day.
Okay. I've been doing that. Okay, well, I'm trying to drink as much as I can, not all at one time, but this morning, this afternoon, well, you know, before this afternoon. Okay, that was helpful.
Awesome.
Okay,
Glad we could help you, Carolyn. Hey, Carolyn, you could email me, or if you got a pen and paper, I would write this down. And this is a weird supplement, and it's called Critta, C-R-I-T-T-A.
Okay.
C-R-I-T-T-A. You can find it on eBay or Amazon. And there's some pretty exotic herbs, and it was originally used for the emperors, the Chinese emperors. It's been around a long, long time, and it's for prostate, it's for bladder, it's for feminine issues with women, and it's a pretty cool supplement. So I don't get, and again, I'm talking angels, flying UFOs. I don't get that it's going to interfere with anything else you're taking, but you might need to take like 2 of those afternoon, as early as afternoon and evening, and I believe that would go a long way to help out what you got going on too. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'll look it up. Thank you, Jim.
Yep. C-R-I-T-T-A. You can look under eBay or Amazon. They'll have them there. You can read all about it. And again, of course, check with your doctor to make sure there's nothing that you might be taking that would interfere or interact with any of that. But that's what I would look into, and do your own research. You know what I mean?
Okay, I will.
Yeah,
thank you both.
Right? Awesome.
You're welcome.
Thanks for calling in. Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, before we take your next caller, I would love to chat with you about food allergies and intolerances, because I know
we'll hold off. Yeah, go ahead. I love it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's probably a lot of people that are listening to your show that, you know, they're maybe experiencing some symptoms and they're not sure what's happening. And this is a topic that's really close to my heart because I have celiac disease, and it took a long time before I got diagnosed. And I found out that what I liked the most eating when I was a teenager was actually my poison. So foods high in gluten, the breads and the pizza and the pastas and all those types of things. And more recently, I have been doing a lot of research into this area of histamine intolerance and how that can affect people. So if you're experiencing problems such as headaches or flushing, or racing heart, upset stomach, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, watery eyes, tissue swelling, these can be signs of an undiagnosed histamine intolerance. And histamine, when people think about histamine, they think about antihistamine drugs that they take for their allergy symptoms. But histamine is also something, it is produced by the body, but it's also something that we can ingest through foods and beverages. And this time of year, as we're getting into the Thanksgiving and holiday period, people are probably drinking a little bit more beer, champagne, wine, maybe having some aged meats and cheeses. All of these foods are high in histamine, even bread and fermented foods like your sauerkraut and your pickles and things like that. Foods that are high in histamine, if you can't break them down, that can make you feel not so well. It can cause a lot of these problems, like, again, the headaches, the hives, the flushing. And, there's been some really interesting research into this area recently where it's been determined that about 70% of people that have these reactions, histamine intolerance, are actually deficient in an enzyme called diamine oxidase, or DAO. And simply supplementing with that, making some dietary modifications, that can make a big difference in a person's overall health and well-being. So I think this is, relevant to talk about, and maybe you have some listeners that have food allergies or intolerances, lactose, gluten. So many people today are affected by food allergies and intolerances. It's really, I would say, it's rare to know someone that doesn't have a problem with a certain food. And often these things are, they go undiagnosed for a long period of time, and it can really, affect your quality of life.
Yeah, I read over your sheets and information, and there's a lot going on there. And I also picked up on the smoked things too. So even smoked duck, smoked almonds. I mean, a lot of folks just really crave what they're allergic to, and they're wondering why they're sneezing 43 times after they eat lunch. So. It's pretty interesting. And once you pinpoint down all that, like you mentioned, you can rock your whole world, change your whole world too. So very cool.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just the indulgent foods. I mean, like, for sure, the beer and the wine and the meats and cheeses, but even some of the healthy foods, or foods that we know to be really healthy and good for us, like yogurt and kefir and green tea and even coffee and chocolate. These foods are very high in histamine. And when you eat these foods, if you feel that you're getting, a reaction like your head hurts or you're flushing, you get a rash, or you just feel dizzy or unwell, you could try either eliminating those foods from your diet, or you could try taking a DAO enzyme before you eat those foods, because basically what's happening in the body with a food intolerance like lactose intolerance, or in this case histamine intolerance, your body is missing an enzyme to break it down. And as we get older, and this is really interesting, as we get older, we have less of this enzyme available. And I myself didn't realize that I had a histamine intolerance until I was in my 40s. I never had a problem in my 20s or 30s. I stayed away from gluten once I was diagnosed with celiac disease, but I could have a glass of wine, I could have pickles, I could have aged meats and cheeses, no problem. And then all of a sudden these problems were developing, and I realized that it was a histamine intolerance. Once I started taking the Umbrellex DAO, it's an enzyme. You just take it about 15 minutes before you eat the histamine-rich foods, and it just helps your body to be able to break down those foods so that you're not suffering with those symptoms. So it's been a lifesaver for me, and I know in talking to a lot of people that struggle with food allergies and intolerances, this is something that really should be investigated, because sometimes, as you mentioned, what you crave and what you enjoy the most could actually be something that is not necessarily the best for your body.
Yeah, or you're really allergic to. Do you find in your patients and people that you counsel or work with incredible amount of gluten intolerance or dairy? I find it's either dairy or wheat generally.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that. In fact, when I was diagnosed with celiac back in the 80s, it was very rare. It was thought to be, 1 in 5,000 people affected. Now today, it affects like 1% of the population. So, over 32 million Americans have it. And histamine intolerance is actually even more common than celiac disease, and yet it often gets missed. When people drink wine and they get a headache or flushing, they think it's the sulfites. They dismiss it as sulfites right away, because there's awareness of that, sulfites in wine, and how that can affect you. And I've met people that say, I just give up. I don't drink the wine, or I drink it and I have the racing heart and I just deal with how I feel. So it's good to know that there is an option, a solution available, because, again, this is a common thing, and particularly as we get older, and other people that are at risk of having a histamine intolerance and a DAO deficiency. So I mentioned celiac, so people that have the condition I have, but also people that have leaky gut, Crohn's disease, colitis, irritable bowel. They could also be deficient in DAO. And again, if you don't have enough of that enzyme to for your body to break down histamine. Those histamine levels, they can remain high, and you could just feel like you have chronic allergy symptoms. And I know I've talked to a lot of people that, you know, feel like they just suffer year-round with allergies, and they always blame it on the pollen and the trees and the grass and the flowers, but in fact it could be something they're putting into their body. So, yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, and for folks that are taking notes, it's Umbrellux, UMBRELLUX, and then all capital letters, second word is DAL. And they actually have a place out of Buffalo, Wyoming, of all places, that specializes in making it. So it's kind of interesting. So
and there's a good website too. Yeah, for people that want more information on the topic, or if you want to even look up to, you know, the signs and symptoms, or you want to do a self-evaluation survey, if you go to this website, it's daodeficiency.org, daodeficiency.org. There's a self-evaluation survey, and you can order for just a couple dollars a trial kit of a couple capsules to, you know, see if this is something that's affecting you, because testing is really difficult. And I always recommend, you know, blood tests where appropriate, or, you know, energy tests if necessary, allergy tests, whatever it may be. But when it comes to histamine intolerance, the testing measuring either histamine or DAO in your blood is not a good correlator of what's actually happening in the body. So this is one of those conditions where you either have to manage it by avoiding all those foods that are high in histamine, or trying the challenge by taking the supplement before you eat those foods. And it's tough, because when who's going to give up their favorite foods and beverages, you know, day in, day out? It's not always practical. So, you know, the supplement is there as an option to allow your body to, again, process these histamines more efficiently.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's great advice, and we sure appreciate having you on the show today. Tell folks how to get a hold of you as well.
So if you want more information on my books and my articles, you can check out my blog page. It's sherrytorkos.com, SherryTorkos. You can check out sherrytorkos.com. Or, again, for more information on this allergy, food intolerance topic, and histamine intolerance, check out daodeficiency.org.
Love it. Thanks so much for being on the show today. You did great. I really enjoyed it. I found it fascinating. So thanks for joining and helping out so many folks that had questions. That's awesome.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Folks, that's our show for today. Thanks again to Sherry Torkos on all this. And, stay tuned for next week. You can always listen to this in archives, of course, at jimmymackhealing.com/interviews. It's also going to be on Spreaker, and we're also on iHeartRadio Network under Goldilocks Productions. So stay tuned every Tuesday at 12 noon. Join us for an hour of information and insight, and we sure appreciate everybody being here, and so many people on the phone right now and on the line, and callers calling in, and also listeners. So thanks, everybody, and I want to wish you that the rest of your life will be the best of your life, and to make progress every day. Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving.
Right now, save 60% off absolutely everything at Gap Factory and Banana Republic Factory at our biggest sale of the year. That's right, 60% off everything in stores and online. Save big with sweaters for adults from $14.99 at Gap Factory. And at Banana Republic Factory, doorbuster sweaters start at $19.99. Hurry, these prices won't last. Search our store locator for your nearest Gap Factory and Banana Republic Factory store, or shop us online. Right now, save 60% off absolutely everything at Gap Factory and Banana Republic Factory at our biggest sale of the year. That's right, 60% off everything in stores and online. Save big with sweaters for adults from $14.99 at Gap Factory. And at Banana Republic Factory, doorbuster sweaters start at $19.99. Hurry, these prices won't last. Search our store locator for your nearest Gap Factory and Banana Republic Factory store, or shop us online.